I guess he wants to be seen as an indispensable ally, Ryan, of course, against terrorism.
Yeah, I think that's fair. President Putin wants to be heard. He wants to be heard specifically when it comes to a solution for Syria. He thinks he can provide it. He's got troops on the ground. And he, at the same time, Fran, wants to distract or deflect all the attention that's been on Russia for Ukraine. Because ultimately what he wants is the sanctions to be dropped and for Russia to no longer be a pariah state.
Right, so Ryan, Mr. Putin's appearance basically is trying to restore a relationship that will try and seek to reassure the West that they're more friendly than they have been in the past. Will Barack Obama bite into that?
Look, obviously he's going to be very reluctant. I think he feels like many other European leaders, for example, that he's been burned by President Putin. But the reality is that the preamble to this meeting suggests he is going to listen to him. And maybe, a lot of people out there saying he has limited options. So I think he's going to give President Putin a hearing. And I think he's going to be challenged to walk away from the meeting without embracing any of the ideas, at least privately, because at the end of the day, Putin's got troops on the ground and can do something in Syria, and President Obama doesn't have many options.
Ryan, the story in the U.S. that got to play over the weekend was Liz Sly's fabulous Syrian effort in the Washington Post. How will Mr. Assad view these two speeches? I'm fascinated by how he will take in what occurs at the United Nations.
Look, if I'm President Assad, I'm listening to two speeches this morning. Well, I'm listening to President Obama, of course, but during the morning session, I'm also listening to the President of Iran and the President of Russia, because those are the two countries that are going to go to bat for me effectively, right? And they're the two countries that actually have forces on the ground with the ability to support me and change the situation. So what he's going to be hoping for is that they're going to be effective in convincing everybody that Assad and supporting Assad is the way to deal with the Islamic State.
Ryan, do the Iranians change their dialogue or their stance? Because while they worry about Damascus and Syria, they're also worried about their deal with the United States on nuclear arms.
Yeah, I think the Iranians will be very careful and maybe leave some of the heavy lifting when it comes to Damascus and Syria to the Russians. Because at the end of the day, what President Rouhani, what the Iranians want is to see the sanctions removed, to get the oil companies in and get the economy back on track. So they're going to be very mindful of that in their conversations and speeches in New York.
How will President Obama avoid the idea that the U.S. might be piggybacking on Russia as it did once in Afghanistan?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a big concern. I mean, if you looked in the lead up to this meeting, the two sides have been saying that the other one initiated it. I mean, they agreed to meet, but ever since then they've been arguing about who actually called for the meeting. Look, I think that we're going to get a press conference almost immediately after it where the administration says, yes, we met, we heard President Putin out, we have these concerns, let's see where this goes forward. I suspect that most of the big conclusions from the meeting will be kept very quiet because they just, they don't trust him yet.
Ryan Chilcote, thank you so much in London.